Tim Shutter, and we're in my studio in Hackney, underneath the Liverpool Main Line railway station and beside the Regent's Canal. It's a very nice little bit of Hackney by Viner Street. About every other person you meet here is another artist or something in the creative industries. I've been living in London, I suppose, for the last 20 years or so. Before that I was in Manchester, and I was born in Cambridge. I've trained as a sculptor initially back in Bath, and that was a foundation course. Then there was a bit of a gap before I went to Manchester and did a degree in sculpture. Then another gap, I came to London, trained as a stonemason, and worked as a stonemason for a while. And then I went to Wimbledon, where I did an MA. I actually did that in site-specific sculpture, because I felt at that stage I'd quite like to do commissions and do public artworks. Then, in order to sort of feel I was in a position to do that, I worked for other sculptors for quite a while, mainly Anish Kapoor. It was quite a nice experience, that, because I often used to travel to different countries and work on his stoneworks. So I did work in Finland and Germany and in Italy. And I did some work for Anthony Gormley. I suppose the main one for that, I did a granite work for him outside the British Library. But that gave me the experience of working on large-scale stonework. And so I thought I could set my own studio up and have a go myself. Some of the commissions I've done recently, I installed a work in Castleford, a large stone column, Castleford Core it was called. That actually took, must have been about 4 years ago I first started work on that. It was a long project with other recent ones. Last year I finished a work in Farringdon Town Centre, working on a bench there, putting a deep sea diver in the bench in the middle of this landlocked village, which was quite fun. There are some works that are maybe slightly older, but are quite similar to this commission, so I'll mention them. There was a work I did in Hemel Hempstead, in the Riverside Shopping Centre, that has sort of flowing organic forms in it. That is quite similar to the proposal I'm making for Bracknell. The proposal developed really from after reading the brief. One of the things that Bracknell suggested was bringing the forest into the town. Well, that was a sort of concept that appealed to me. Partly that I've already been working on themes similar to that. There's a little sculpture beside me, which is like a flowering baby. So it's a similar idea for Bracknell, in which I wanted to bring all the elements of a forest into a single sort of potent form. I played around with lots of ideas about various symbols for the forest and various things you see and how to turn these into little decorative drums of the column. You can probably see in the drawings behind the sculpture. I just did lots of little bits, stuck them together and played around with them until I came up with a design that I was fairly happy with. I then developed this into this maquette. It's zoned, really. A bit like, say, the different zones at a beach. You get different areas where different organisms live, the littoral, sublittoral. I used to do zoology, so this is probably why I followed this type of theme. So this is zoned according to height, which also works in the same way as a beach, that you get different organisms living at the ground level, at the sort of grass level, at the different levels of the tree and the highest level. So it starts off with a sort of root ball. This would actually be carved in a different stone from the rest of the column. That was going to be an Anglesey marble, which is a sort of browny, greyy stone, quite a hard stone and waterproof. So as well as being more earth-like, it acts as a good splash zone between the green roundabout that would be sitting on and the rest of the sculpture. The rest of the sculpture in Portland stone, which is a much finer stone and white, and it can take really fine, crisp details. Base stone is grass, sort of heathland, and we go up to sort of levels of bramble, and then bracken for Bracknell, unfurling fronds, and then we're going up into the trees and with leaves and bark and little bands of bullflowers, tree branch stems, another row of leaves which mirrors the one below, making a sort of a unit there and another unit here, and the whole is topped off with a sort of exuberant mass of buds. So the scale of my proposal, well, I've suggested about 500 millimetres diameter and about 4.5 metres height, I think. Each commission starts, well, initially with drawings, just little drawings, and then once the design is fairly sure, I'll go on to full-scale drawings. Like I was saying about the size of each drum, it would mean for each stone I'll have to do a large drawing, you know, 1.5 metres or more long, and the height of each stone. I think the base stone was about 900 mil high, and the others are between 5 and 6. So, you know, it's a lot of drawings. Then from that, I'll visit the quarries and choose the stone. I've used Portland stone quite a lot, so I know Jordan's base bed is a stone that I like. It's a very close texture and consistent colour, so I'll probably go for that. But it changes all the time. In Portland there are at least 5 different quarries, and each quarry's got at least 3 or 4 different types of stone. So it takes a bit of selection till you find the one that seems right. And then I've got the pleasure of carving it. I estimated this would take 4 months. I do it all myself, and it's a process that I really enjoy. The initial roughing out, I'll use power tools, angle grinders and grinderettes, and then progress on to using air tools. I've got a large selection of different sizes of air tools and chisels, and I'll work it as far as I can with those, and finishing off with hand tools and then sanding the final surface where it's needed. When I was reading about Bracknell, when I was researching for this commission, I was impressed by the number of forests and parks that the council look after. And there was one little story that I read that really impressed me. It was while in the early days of Bracknell, with the Bracknell New Town, there was an area where there were old trees left over from an estate, and they designed the new estate round them so they could keep those trees there. And also in the landscaping and landscape architecture of the new development, it's always been a major consideration to keep trees and green areas within the town, which is why I decided that this is the thing that should be celebrated, that I should do a sculpture about the trees.